Mr. Richard?
Here.
Mr. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Fitzmaurice? Mr. Crawford? Mr. Drum?
Here.
Mr. Randolph?
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Public announcements, please silence all phones and electronic devices. If you disagree with the decision this commission makes, you have the right to appeal it to the council. There are appeal cards over to my right on the end of the banister there. Speaker cards, please fill out a speaker card if you wish to speak. And they're over on the banister as well. Public speaking, 10 minutes each side and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Please exit the building. If you want to have further discussion with some of the members that are in the audience, but you need to exit the building because it echoes back into the chambers here. Please rise for the invocation by Commissioner Randolph and the pledge by Commissioner Parker.
Gracious Father, in your Son, Jesus' name, once again we come to you to say thank you for all the blessings you bestowed on our lives. Thank you for your grace and mercy throughout this day. Lord, we thank you for our families. We thank you for our parish and government, our leadership. And Lord, we thank you for our employees that work so hard every day for our government. And Lord, we ask that you continue to bless each commissioner that's here tonight. And Lord, guide our thoughts and give us the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding we need, as well as protect and provide for all of our military personnel, veterans, law enforcement officers, firefighters, and medical personnel as well. Is in your holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the Commissioner's packet, you had a copy of the December 10th meetings. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to review them. And I'll need accept a motion for approval. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Richard.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richard. Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Public hearings, request for postponement. Do we have any requests for postponement?
No, sir.
Okay. First group of items is first item is entering parish right-of-way, servitudes, easement, and Tammany Trace. The revocation review is, first item is REV 19-12-004. Revocation of a portion of Pine Avenue located south of Magnolia Avenue, north of US Highway 190 east between Square 12 and Square 13 in Beverly Hills subdivision, Slidell, Ward 8, District 13. Staff?
Okay, I'm sorry. The Louisiana revised statutes govern the revocation of immovable property state that roadways should only be revoked if they serve no useful public purposes. However, as we indicated in the staff write-up, that the Department of Public Works determined that we have a drainage, Parish maintains a drainage ditch within the right-of-way. And it was our understanding that they would actually discuss with our Public Works, like plans to actually reroute or relocate the right-of-way. But as of the writing of our staff report, none of the discussions have been initiated. However, since we wrote the staff report, the applicant's engineer has discussed the possibility of doing the relocation with our Public Works. And our Public Works department thinks that their resolution could be made without much trouble. So we still recommend that it be tabled till we get something finalized. But, if we do, I think it needs to be with the stipulation that there's a revised survey indicating the location of the drainage servitude, and that any relocation of the drainage servitude be done at the owner's expense, and that only if a final plan can be done to the satisfaction of the Public Works Department.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shane, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Commission. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, and I represent the petitioner in this revocation matter. And we agree with the staff commentary as it relates to, since the filing of our revocation, it's been brought to our attention by Public Works that there is some form of drainage feature that runs through this unconstructed parish right-of-way. Since that time, we've done some investigation. I'm of the belief that our engineer, Scott Tabery of Duplantis Design Group, has had discussions with Joey Lebrano of Public Works, and we understand that it will be up to the petitioner to satisfy presumably the parish engineering department and also Public Works, that if we are going to reroute or relocate this drainage ditch, that it's got to be done in a proper manner, meaning it's got to be in the right location, it's got to be at the right elevation. The water's going to have to flow into other ditches that can accommodate the water, et cetera. This revocation is an element of a project that will be annexed into the city of Slidell. It is time sensitive, and for that reason, we would appreciate your consideration of a recommendation of revocation this evening, but contingent upon satisfaction of any reasonable parish requirement as it relates to this drainage issue, the relocation or the reroute. And what I would suggest in that regard is that even if you make the recommendation, this ordinance would not be introduced until February and would not be adopted by the council until March. And if we don't have our business together by March, we will wait until the parish departments are comfortable that we've addressed this issue. So if it was not clear to you, maybe I should state that this right-of-way is a wooded area. Don't picture one that's used for pedestrian or vehicular ingress or egress. The squares that abut it on each side are likewise wooded. So this is an undeveloped tract. Why do we need to have it revoked? Well, it's sort of a right-of-way that seems to be unnecessary but for this drainage feature that I've discussed. And it will allow the two squares that my client is acquiring to have continuous ownership. These two squares will not be separated, if you will, by this current right-of-way. So in light of those comments, again, we would appreciate a recommendation of revocation, but contingent upon satisfaction of any drainage issue on or before the adoption of the ordinance. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak either for or against on this item? Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, to staff. You introduced us to more recent and more current information a few minutes ago concerning the relocation of the ditch or of the drainage, et cetera. We passed this tonight, the revocation tonight. Do you all have a problem, or how will you all be able to identify and make sure that the drainage issue is resolved? I'm pretty sure it has to come through you all anyway, but will you all have the time to do that?
Well, I believe Jeff was talking about having the where it wouldn't actually be introduced until the like the following month. So if we did that, I think we'd have time to actually come to some kind of a conclusion. I just wouldn't want to actually have any draft up any ordinance, with the stipulations until we had something like a little bit more finalized.
Okay. Well, with that, I have to make a motion that we postpone it until next month,
Okay,
for 1 month.
all right. We have a motion by Commissioner Randolph to postpone. Commissioner Richard? You want to speak?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually, I was waiting to see if they would get a second to that postponement. I have less of a problem approving the revocation subject to Public Works signing off on the potential drainage feature or whatever's necessary and allow that time over the next couple of months to get it done. I don't see that if Public Works would sign off on this and would agree to it, I don't think anybody on this commission would have a problem with it. So I'm going to see if anybody else feels the same way. But I would have no problem putting forth that motion, and will put forth that motion to approve, subject to acceptable language and agreement with Public Works.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Richard to approve, subject to the language being such that it will come back to Public Works to approve the language and what's necessary. Commissioner Seeger. Second by Commissioner Seeger. Commissioner Crawford.
Mr. Shane, just a quick question. The revocation obviously is to, like you said, tie these two pieces together. Is the intent to put lots, to have lots there and
No, the
build this
intent
up?
will be to combine both squares and the revoked right-of-way into one commercial parcel
Okay,
that will have a convenience store gas operation.
okay,
This is in the northeast quadrant of Fremo and I guess we'll call it the I-10 service road.
oh, okay, I know where that is, okay, thank you.
And again, if I could,
Sure. Sure.
I hope that what I've tried to convey or communicate is that, of course, as you know, you can't revoke the right-of-way. You can only make a recommendation. We understand that that recommendation would be that the revocation never be ordained until your parish engineering and our Public Works Department approves whatever drainage plan we suggest as it relates to the reroute of the ditch. So there should never be a time constraint or timing issue. If it takes us a month, fine, but quite frankly, if it takes us 6 months to get them satisfied, we understand that your recommendation is that it not be ordained revoked until and I keep saying engineering because I have to believe engineering would weigh in on the reroute of a drainage facility, not that Public Works would not have an opinion, commentary as well.
Okay. Anything else? Commissioner Randolph, are you satisfied with the motion that Commissioner Richard made?
Okay. I'm on. I'm, okay. It's not showing. I'm sorry. I don't have a problem with it. Mr.
Normally, we
Shane.
don't do things like this. But I understand, and I think Commissioner Richard understands that, going through the process and everything, it's got to come back to engineering, Slant Public Works, to be approved. Plus, if this is approved, if Commissioner Richard's motion is approved, then it can go forward onto the council. And that's a 30-day process anyway, just to try and get it, you know, on their agenda and everything. And, I don't know, you know, where, since it's gonna be annexed into the city, it'll take them time to get it on their agenda and everybody, you know, get on board as to, you know, where it stands and the proper engineering from the city standpoint. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, to approve, subject to, Public Works Engineering, approving the, process, okay? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Yeah, thank you. All right, minor subdivisions. The first one we have is 2019-1748-MSP.
You gotta read it to the record first.
Yeah, I've got to read it into the record.
To the record.
Okay. It's a minor subdivision of 6.56 acres into parcels A, B, and C. The owner is David T. and Suzanne H. Stein, Joseph and Margaret Stein. Land Surveying Incorporated is a surveyor. Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Martha Casablan. The property is located on the west side of Joe Stein Road, north of Savannah Road, Madisonville, Ward 1, District 3. Staff?
Case first, or
Pardon?
should we hear the case first?
Let who?
Bernie speak.
Bernie? All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Willie.
All right, based on advice from our legal, I have to recuse myself from the discussion of this item and abstain from the vote. And doing so, would cause, because of a lack of members, that would cause an issue with the vote regarding the next two cases. So I don't know how y'all want to respond to that, but I'm gonna have to excuse myself from discussion.
Carlin, do you want?
Yes, I've advised Commissioner Willie to recuse himself from this vote. He will also not be able to participate in the discussion. He will need to remain present so that we don't lose our quorum. Our quorum's 8 and we have 8 people. But he will not be able to participate in the discussion. He'll have to abstain from the vote. Additionally, because there are a number of waivers requested, there are 8 votes required to approve any waiver. So the commission will not be able to approve any waiver. It will be impossible. They will not have enough votes. So it'll be up to the applicant, after the staff reads in their recommendations, to decide whether they would like to postpone this until the next meeting when hopefully we have some more members present and we won't have this issue, or whether they'd like to move forward without the waivers.
Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and read the other item into the record, but we have to vote on them separately as far as postponing. It's 2019-1749-MSP, a minor subdivision of 7.5 acres into parcels A1, A2, A3, and A4. Owner is David and Dwana Drinkard, Todd Stein, and Joseph and Margaret Stein. The surveyor is Land Surveying Incorporated. This is Council District Representative Martha Casabon's area. The property is located on the west side of Joe Stein Road, north of Savannah Road, Madisonville, Ward 1, District 3. And the same comment from Commissioner Willie and our legal, Carlin, applies to this one as well. So let's get a motion on the floor on 2019-1748-MSP to postpone for 1 month?
What do you want to let the petition?
Yeah, okay. Ellen, you want to comment?
If it is the wish of the commission to postpone the case immediately, or if you would like me to read the staff comments and allow the petitioner to come to the podium,
We could
if
do that.
legal has any objection,
Okay,
or doesn't have any objection, or if you would like to just proceed with postponing whatever the wish of the commission is.
let me ask the petitioner, do you understand what we're attempting to do and the reason we're having to do it this way?
Yeah,
Come forward and state your name.
I guess we could just go ahead and postpone it. I mean, if you can't vote on waivers or whatever, we're just gonna have to postpone it and see if we can get
Right,
better results next time.
right, and, we're just short members right now, and hopefully, February's, meeting will have enough, membership on the commission to be able to handle this.
Yeah, okay, that'd be
Okay.
fine, sure,
Okay, all right, thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? Okay, I want to bring it back to the commission.
Somebody else to speak?
Oh, okay, I didn't. Do you wish to speak, sir, or ma'am? Don't know.
Make sure he states his name.
I'm David Stein, and that's fine with the postpone until February meeting.
Okay,
That'll be fine.
all right, thank you. All right, I'm going to close it to the public, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone
Just
20
just
the
do it
first one?
singly, yeah.
2019-1748 MSP for 1 month, our next month meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Crawford. Second by Commissioner Crawford. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one's 2019-1749 MSP, Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to postpone. Thank you. 2019-1749 MSP for 1 month.
Okay. Commissioner Crawford.
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. Next item is 2019-1746 PP. This is a preliminary subdivision review. Money Hill Golf Cottages, Phase 8A1. The developer owners, Money Hill Plantation LLC. Engineers, J.V. Burks and Associates. This is in Council District Richard Tanner's. General location, property located on the north of Country Club Drive, west of Money Hill Parkway, north of Louisiana 435, Abita Springs, Ward 6, District 6. Staff?
Yes, sir. The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection was made of the site. Staff has no objection to the preliminary subdivision submittal, subject to the following items being addressed. Provide professional seal, signature, and date on all plan sheets. 2, applicant was granted a major amendment to the PUD, subject to the zoning commission staff report comments being addressed. Outstanding staff report comments are required to be addressed. 3, provide clarification or delineation for restrictive covenant number 4 as to which areas of this phase will require the 108-foot mean sea level finished floor elevation versus the 116-foot finished floor elevation. 4, the typical section shown is approximately 48 feet wide to provide room for the proposed utilities and ditches. However, the plan sheets only show the 20-foot roadway pavement section. Revise the plans and typical sections to eliminate the conflicts and provide the required space for utility installations. 5, provide a cross-section for Country Club Drive, showing the proposed locations for the new sewer force main and water line, including dimensions for the proposed depth and offset from the road. 6, provide written approval from H2O Systems for the proposed water and sewer plans. 7, provide written verification from H2O systems that the existing water and sewer systems this development is connecting to have sufficient capacity. 8, servitudes need to be established for the sewer force main and water lines located outside the existing right-of-way and updated on the plat and applicable plan sheets. A letter of no objection from St. Tammany Parish and LDH approval regarding the water and sewer infrastructure is required for this development. No funded maintenance obligation is required since this project will not connect to a parish-maintained roadway. And no mandatory development fees are required since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, and I have the pleasure of representing Money Hill Plantation LLC. We are in full accord with all staff comments. Each of these issues have been addressed, and if they have not been submitted, it's only because we are waiting to hear the will of the commission this evening, but each item will be addressed per se as requested.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Yes, sir.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll close it to the public, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Reshard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff, I have one quick question. On the new road, the driveway going to cottages 2 and 3, is that an adequate turnaround at the end, or is this road going to continue?
Need some help.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm
Sean?
just not-
He's got to earn his money now.
Yeah, so we have it's basically gonna end in a driveway is where it's gonna end.
So that would serve as a turnaround?
So it's gonna be like a T turnaround right there at the very tail end.
I didn't know if there was a plan to add any more.
Extended.
No.
Right, not for this.
Thank you. That answers the question. With that, I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Reshard to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Final subdivision review. 2019-1687 FP, Oaklawn Trace, Phase 1. Developer, owner, JMAC Development LLC. The engineer surveyors Kelly McHugh and Associates Incorporated. Parish Council District Representatives, the Honorable Steve Stefancic. General location, the property is located on the south side of US 190 east of Transmitter Road, west of South Tranquility Road, Lacombe, Ward 7, District 11. Staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The developer requested postponement for the November 12th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting. This development was postponed at the December 10th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting. Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on January 2nd, 2020. The inspection disclosed that all the asphalt roadways were constructed and the roadside ditches and shoulders are constructed. The following uncompleted items existed at the time of the final inspection and review of the provided plans. These items will need to be completed prior to the plats being signed. 1, the ditch within the drainage servitude that drains Sunset Oak Boulevard to the North Pond needs to be regraded to provide positive flow from Sunset Oak Boulevard to the detention pond. 2, numerous cross culverts have been silted in and need to be cleaned. 3, the new connection for Oaklawn Trace at Highway 190 is showing signs of raveling and needs to be corrected. 4, riprap at numerous outfall pipe locations needs to be reinstalled. 5, the fire hydrant across from lot number 6 needs to be raised to the proper grade. 6, contact recommends that 82000 pipe exposed to UV for a period longer than 2 years should be covered or coated. 7, the lift station valve is in conflict with the drainage servitude between lots 21 and 22. Relocate the lift station valve to outside the drainage servitude. 8, show the 60-foot drainage servitude from pond number 2 extending to the trace right-of-way on the final plat. 9, revise Lindsay Drive to Brownstone Drive to match the plat on the paving and drainage plan. 10, provide as-built information for the newly constructed water well infrastructure, including tank, pump, piping, etc. 11, provide as-built information for the discharge pipe and required servitude for newly constructed wastewater treatment site. 12, provide a letter of acceptance for the water system for the subdivision. 13, provide a clear water test for the new water lines within this development. 14, provide permit documentation and revise LDH approvals with the latest owners/operators information for the water and sewer systems for this subdivision. Informational items, the required recreational facilities for Oak Lawn Trace shall be completed before the final plat for the next phase of Oak Lawn Trace can be recorded. Should the planning commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 3,450 linear feet at $12 per linear foot, for a total of $41,400 for a period of 1 year. No mandatory developmental fees are required since the public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The voluntary development agreement for this development is under review and will need to be finalized before the plats can be recorded. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Jeff Shane, Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent J. Mack, the developer and owner of this subdivision. I would imagine that this commission remembers this case coming before you in November, also with a more maybe detailed discussion in December. It is my belief in looking at page 2 of the staff comments that items 1 through 7 have been physically completed and can be demonstrated to staff. I know that my engineer, Mr. McHugh, is with me this evening and tells me that items 8 through 12 either have been or will be completed as requested. And we are in the process of resolving 13 and 14. So I believe we come to you tonight with a much more complete report than we have in the prior 2 months. We would ask you to grant final subdivision approval, subject to satisfaction of all staff comments. If any of you have any questions, I will be glad to address them at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Yes, sir.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak either for or against on this? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Commissioner Crawford.
I had one question, Mr. Shane. So this looks a lot better than last time. We had 33 items on the list last time, and we're down to 14.
Yes.
But did I understand correctly? You said that 1 through 7 have been completed?
Yes.
And it just needs to be submitted to engineering?
Yes.
Okay, so 1 through 7 is done?
That's my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
Those are field items.
Yeah. Okay, with that, I'll second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. I guess I'm a little bit disappointed, Mr. Shane and Mr. McHugh. I mean, there's been 60 days pass on this, and we still have, I'm going to say, 5 items in my mind that what I would consider major, and that would be the first 7 items minus items 3 and 5. I'm just a little bit disappointed that they all didn't get completed in the 60-day time. So we do have a motion and a second, so we'll see where that vote goes, but it just, I'm just disappointed that all of them weren't taken care of.
You mind if I comment to that?
You're welcome to comment, sir.
I appreciate that. Well, I think it's, if I sat in your seat, I can only imagine that each final that comes to you, I'd like to see no comments other than the recommendation that staff makes. But as we leave these meetings, particularly in the holidays, we left your December meeting.
Right.
The opportunities, because of holidays, to fix things, the opportunities for people to inspect, the opportunities for us to know and respond. It doesn't necessarily mean that it took 60 days to get each of those items completed. I guess that is an excuse that I'm offering of sorts, but I think that you would find that this subdivision today is probably no different in terms of status as to most of the subdivisions you've approved. And quite frankly, since we've brought the subject up, watching the subdivision that you approved last month after this case came up that had numerous items, this project is in remarkably better condition today.
I agree with you.
And I did not have to hire Mr. Bruno to come this evening to present this to you.
I agree with you.
So I think we're in much better shape, but I always understand that you want to see no list, or as skinny list as you can.
Well, I think, maybe the comments, weren't quite understood on Mr. Bruno's case last month. And that's the reason it went through, okay?
Well, I understand, but it was
Okay.
after I had been asked to sit down
Right,
and be postponed.
yeah.
It's a
So-
difficult sit down.
Oh, I understand that, and, but, you know, the, last inspection was January 2nd, so, and I understand the holidays and all that, but by the same token, you know, there was, I wanna say minimal holidays between, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. It's, probably five working days in there, so, you know, I understand. All right, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Richard, do you have another comment?
Yep, I'd like to. Jeff, I'm going to respond to that for a second. I was going to say something anyway. I would be supporting this regardless. I think I'm hoping that in the coming year that the council and these commissions will get together and look at our processes. I was supported that subdivision last month, and I explained it to my fellow commissioners. A big part of it is when we get a final, at this stage of the game, our staff has control. They are making recommendations. I don't feel the commissioners should get involved unless there's a dispute between the petitioner and our staff. Then we should mitigate that, if we will, or make a decision in that regard. But if all we're doing is saying the staff still has the authority to make these comments in the first place, and they're the ones that we're asking to assure us that it's been done, what value are we adding up here? I'm sorry, but that's my point. And so I'm not sure, and we may not be in agreement up here, but I'll hope that we'll spend more time. It makes no sense for us to look at a list of 33 things if both the petitioner and the staff agree that's what's going to be done. We're not doing the inspections. We're lay people. We're taxpayers and citizens like the rest of you. We're relying on our staff. And that was my point to the staff last month, is that if it's their job to make these recommendations, if there's no dispute, they're also the ones that are going to do the final inspection. So I have no problem offering up a motion to approve, subject to them signing off on it. Just my 2 cents. I wanted to let you understand why last month that I put forth that resolution, and in the future, why I may do the same. Thank you.
Okay. Ron, you took your name down? Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is amendments to Chapter 125 subdivision regulations. It's a text change, ordinance to amend St. Tammany Code of Ordinance, Part 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 125 subdivision regulations, Section 125-197, hydrological study and plan to delete 125-197, parenthesis 8, regarding the review by St. Tammany Parish Gravity Drainage District Number 5. Staff?
So I'll take this one. This comes from a parish council motion. At the January and February parish council meetings, the council will consider abolishing Gravity Drainage District 5. Should said district be abolished, references to reviews by the district need to be deleted from the code. The council is going to vote on this at the same time as they vote on some other relevant ordinances and resolutions to Gravity Drainage District 5. I do have one note. There is an error in here. It says 125-197-8, but it should say 125-197-E8. If y'all would be so kind as to make that amendment, vote on the amendment, and then vote on this. That way we can send it to the parish council in the correct form. Whether you vote this up or down, if you could just make that correction, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so it needs to be 125-197, parenthesis E, parenthesis 8.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Willie.
We're gonna, motion for the amendment first, or are we gonna move on the, ordinance? On the,
Any comment from the audience?
Okay. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this? Either for or against? Seeing none, Mr. Willie,
well, I move that we correct, what the council, recommended from, 125-1978 to 125-197E8, and, make a motion to make that amendment to this, ordinance.
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Willie to correct the typographical error. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
You need to vote on the
Oh, I'm
approval,
sorry.
so recognize where they again.
What now? Oh,
You voted
right,
on
we
the
need to
amendment.
vote
Now we
on
can
the,
vote on it.
as amended, that's correct.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Sorry.
All right, so we need to vote on the change as amended. Please vote.
Yes.
Pardon?
You send it to Willie. He's
Oh,
got it.
Commissioner Willie, I'm sorry. Get my head on that.
That's all right, man.
Mr. Chairman, yes, a motion to move on the ordinance as amended.
Thank you. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next item is the amendment to developmental agreement. Notice of the intention to consider adoption of amendment to developmental agreement. A public hearing will be held by St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission to consider adoption of an amendment to the developmental agreement between St. Tammany Parish government and Advanced Mortgage Company to remove lots 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42 of square 21, lots 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42 of square 31, and add lots 1A, 7A, 11A, 15A, 19A, 23A, 27A, 31A, 35A, 39A of square 14, formerly lots 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29, 31, 33, 35, 37, 39, 41 of square 14, lots 2A, 8A, 12A, 16A, 20A, 24A, 28A, 32A, 36A, 40A of square 15, formerly lots 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42 of square 15 of South Abita Springs subdivision, also known as Tammany Hills subdivision, removing 42 lots and adding 20 lots, formerly 42 lots. The debtor is Advanced Mortgage Company. The Parish Council District is Honorable David Fitzgerald. General location, property is located on Fifth Street between Adams and Jefferson Avenue, Ward 3, District 2. Staff?
Yes, sir. Exactly what you just read, they're transferring one group of lots for a similar group of lots adjacent to it and nearby the footprint. And this office and the 22nd District DA have reviewed the amendment and have no objection to it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shane?
Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I think, Mr. Chair, you had the hardest part of this case in reading it, but it's literally a swap of same-size property. Now that the developer is developing these areas, the parcel that was initially in the development agreement is really not as susceptible to being developed as once believed. It's going to be used as green space, and another area like kind has been selected within the subdivision to be developed. Obviously, staff and the DA's office has looked at it and agreed with the request of the developer, and we ask that you so amend the developmental agreement in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I want to first acknowledge that I appreciate the summary and the very last part of that, a part of that request, removing 42 lots and adding 20 lots, formerly 42 lots, because on Mr. Tissue's letter, it didn't state that. It said amendment, remove 42 lots and add 42 lots. So, but with that, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Commissioner Seeger.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Seeger. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Old business, 2019-1388, MSP, a minor subdivision of 792.43 acres, parcel into parcels A, B, and C. The owner is Weyerhaeuser Company. Surveyors Randall W. Brown and Associates. Parish Council District Representative Honorable Steve Stefancic. The general location, the property is located on the east side of Louisiana 434, south of Louisiana Highway 36, north of Interstate 12, Lacombe, Ward 7, District 7. Staff?
A request for a minor subdivision was presented to you in regards to the same property in March of 2019, and it was approved by the Planning Commission. However, the plat was never recorded, and the petitioner is coming back here in front of you requesting an amendment to the previously approved minor subdivision, requesting still to create a 3-parcel from a 792-acre parcel. The minor subdivision request requires a public hearing due to the fact that parcels B and C do not have public road frontage. The access servitude provided is the location of Legends Boulevard, which is currently constructed. However, the final road dedication to the parish has not been completed, and the petitioner is requesting a waiver of the private drive requirements on the road frontage requirements, considering until Legends Boulevard is officially dedicated, and the following notes would have to be added to the plat before recordation. Staff has no objection to the request.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Jeff Shane, Jones Fussell, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent Weyerhaeuser Corporation, and as staff has commented, this is a subdivision that you have seen in various capacities in the past, and of course in March of 2019 you did approve a 3-lot minor subdivision. The configuration of those 3 lots is principally the difference in the plat. Substantively, there's in essence no difference in what was presented to you then. Legends Boulevard is constructed and will ultimately be dedicated. This is a development that you know in part is sort of a joint venture to some respect with the parish as it relates to the parish holdings in the front of this subdivision along Highway 434, where we have some government buildings, et cetera. So I'm happy to say that the project is making good progress. This minor subdivision will facilitate further development of these larger parcels. I think maybe the most important comment I would make to you in this regard is that this will be the forerunner now for us to come back with more detailed development plans for each of these lots, these 3 large tracts, and of course, we will come through your subdivision process in order to do that. So we're cutting it into 3 big pieces so we can now figure out which piece we're going to develop next and come back to you through the subdivision process.
Okay.
We'd appreciate your approval this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this item? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Had a question for staff. Helen, you said you have no objection to the proposal?
Correct.
Okay. With that being the case, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further discussion? Seeing no one else in the queue, please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, entering the parish right-of-way. Request to enter the parish right-of-way for Audubon Street, Town of Mandeville subdivision for the purpose of extending the street and installing drainage features. The debtor is Mr. William H. Johnson. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Jacob Groby. Does that need to be corrected to? Yeah. Okay, and the current representative is Honorable Jimmy Davis. General location, the property located on the north side of LeBar Street, east of Foy Street, Mandeville, Ward 4, District 7. Staff?
Yes, sir. The debtor for the above captioned project would like to request a variance to reduce the minimum required roadway width of 20 feet to 16 feet due to the lack of existing right-of-way along Audubon Street. This waiver would be a waiver of the minimum roadway requirements in Chapter 125. The right-of-way that he's accessing is only 26.2 feet wide, and the street it's accessing off of is Foy Street, and that section of Foy Street's between 14 and 15 feet wide itself. And he's only going to be accessing about 3 lots, so staff has no objection to the request.
Okay, thank you. And that, the 16 foot apparently will leave, will give traffic adequate passage of
Yes.
the two vehicles passing each other.
Yes, sir. It'll provide 2 8-foot lanes, which is more than the roadways that lead back to this street.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you answered my question, Mr. Tissue, and that was that we had enough room in there, so everything seems to be okay with that, so I'll move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Who would like to second? Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have no new business, and the next item is adjournment. Do I hear adjournment?
Absolutely.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Crawford. Thank you.